Imagine this. You open the garage door and something feels off. Your workbench is a mess. Your tools, your personal tools, are scattered everywhere. Blades dull, handles chipped, sawdust all over the damn place. Stuff you've collected and cared for over a decade looks like it's been through a war. Then it hits you. Someone's been using your gear. And not just anyone. It's your wife's brother, the guy who crashes on your couch, eats your food, and never says thanks. You confront her and she says the words that snap something inside you. You're not irreplaceable. That's when I knew I wasn't just losing tools, I was losing my home, my dignity, and maybe even my marriage. But I wasn't going to go down swinging fists. I had a better plan. I'm Jake. I'm 38. I live in Yakima, Washington, and for the last 11 years, I've built a small but solid woodworking business right out of my garage. Cabinets, tables, bookcases, you name it. Everything handmade, everything done with care. This isn't just a hobby, it's who I am. My shop is my safe place. Every screw, every plank, every tool has a story. I didn't grow up with much, so when I started building things, it gave me control, peace, pride. I met Emily when I was 28. She was electric, fast-talking, big-smiling, full of fire. Total opposite of me, but somehow we just worked. She joked that I was her steady hand in a chaotic world. I didn't mind being the quiet one. She loved going out, I was happy in the garage. She handled insurance claims at a corporate office. I did the shopping, fixed the sink when it leaked, kept the house running. We weren't flashy, but I thought we had balance. Turns out, I was wrong. Way wrong. Then came Caleb, Emily's 25-year-old brother. Like a tornado we didn't see coming until it was already ripping through the living room. Fresh off what he called a bad roommate situation in Portland, he showed up with a duffel bag, no job, and zero plan. Emily looked at him like he was a stray puppy. She begged me to let him stay, just for a bit while he found his footing. I wasn't excited about it. I'm not a fan of surprise guests, let alone family drama. But I didn't want to start a fight with her over it, so I gave in. With one condition. It had to be temporary. 1 month, tops. Big mistake. Caleb walked in like he owned the place, moved into the guest room and made himself way too comfortable. Dishes piled up in the sink because, apparently, the concept of rinsing a plate was foreign to him. Showers lasted long enough to empty the water heater, and our grocery bill? It exploded. I'd open the fridge to find nothing but crumbs and maybe a jar of mustard. Meanwhile, he never once offered to chip in, not a single dollar, not even a "hey, I'll run to the store." And when I asked Emily about it, she just said, "He's going through a rough patch." Rough patch or not, I was tired of cleaning up after a grown man who acted like a teenager. Job hunting, please. This dude spent his entire day sunk into our couch, gaming or watching whatever garbage YouTube was feeding him, like he was waiting for a career to just knock on the door. I let it slide at first, told myself to be patient, to give him a little space. I figured maybe something would click, maybe he'd wake up and start contributing, but no. He just kept taking, and then he crossed a line I could. It started with something small. I walked into the garage one day and smelled fresh sawdust, the kind of smell I usually love, but this time it hit me wrong. I hadn't worked that day. I looked around and things felt off. One of my clamps was hanging crooked. A chisel was out of its case, laying on the bench with dried wood glue on the handle. I stood there, heart pounding, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. This was my space, my garage, my shop. The place I'd built with my own hand-severed tool bought with hard-earned money, every piece of wood a future project in the making. I walked inside, asked Emily if she'd been in there. She barely looked up from her phone. "Oh, Caleb's doing some little woodworking thing," she said. "He used a couple of your tools. He's building a table or something." Just like that. Casual. Like borrowing a hammer was the same as grabbing a glass of water. I told her flat out, "He can't touch my stuff. These aren't toys. They're dangerous and expensive." I expected her to understand. Instead, she rolled her eyes and said, "He's just messing around. Chill, it's harmless." Harmless? Is slicing off a finger harmless? Is busting a $300 0-cent blade harmless? Some of those tools are more valuable than that clunker car he parked in our driveway. They're not just things. I built a life with them. So I did what I should have done sooner. I found Caleb in the living room, laying there with a bag of chips like he hadn't moved all day. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Don't go in the garage. Don't touch my tools. That's my workspace. You need to respect that." He didn't even blink, just gave me this lazy, fake smile and said, "Yeah, no problem." He said it like he was humoring a toddler, and the very next day, I come home, walk into my shop, and it's like a bomb went off. Wood glue spilled across the table and hardened into a crusty puddle. My brushes ruined. The bristles, stiff, like someone used them and didn't even bother to clean them. One of my best chisels, gone, just vanished. The floor was a mess of sawdust, wood scraps, even footprints through glue. It was chaos, and in the middle of it, his project-a-jag uneven, lopsided mess of boards that looked more like a fire hazard than a table. I stood there, jaw tight, fists clenched, and I swear I could feel my blood boiling. That garage used to be the one place I could count on to feel calm, grounded, in control. And now it looked like a dumpster fire because some guy who hadn't worked a day in months decided he was a carpenter. I wasn't just mad at him, I was mad at myself for letting it get this far, for not shutting it down the first time I saw that chisel out of place. I had tried to keep the peace, tried to be the good guy. But that day, staring at the wreckage of my shop, I realized peace wasn't possible anymore. Something had to change. I stormed into the house, holding up one of my ruined brushes, still sticky with dried glue, the bristles stiff and bent like straw. That brush cost $40 and it was toast. I shouted, "Are you kidding me? Your brother's wrecking my shop!" Emily didn't even flinch. She was on her phone, scrolling like I was background noise. "He's just building something," she muttered, not even looking up. "Don't make it a big deal." I stood there, stunned. Not a big deal? He had spilled half a bottle of glue that cost me $100. Tools were missing, supplies ruined, my entire shop was a wreck. And it wasn't a big deal? Then she hit me with something that stopped me cold. She looked up for just a second and said, "You think you own everything?" My jaw dropped. And then, like she didn't even mean to say it out loud, she added under her breath, "You're not exactly irreplaceable." That line, it felt like she punched me in the chest. Like she took every late night I spent working in that garage, every scraped knuckle, every dollar I saved for that equipment, and threw it in the trash. I didn't yell back. I didn't argue. I just turned around, walked outside, and sat in my truck, staring at the garage I'd built with my own hands. Her voice echoed in my head all night. Not irreplaceable. Like I was just another object in the house. A tool to be used and put back on the shelf. That's when I made a decision. At 5 in the morning, before anyone was awake, I backed my truck up to the garage, opened the door, and started loading everything. My table saw, drill press, clamps, measuring gear, boxes of screws, hand tools, every last piece of wood. I packed it all into the truck bed and trailer. By 8 a.m., the garage was completely empty. Except for one thing. I left a sign. It was something my buddy Michael printed for his shop years ago. A white plastic board with bold black letters. Not yours. I screwed it into the wall right where my workbench used to be. Then I went to work like it was any other day. Around noon, my phone started blowing up. "Emily," text after text. "Where's your stuff? What's going on? Did you seriously empty the garage?" I didn't answer. I knew if I talked to her right then, it'd get ugly. When I got home, she was standing in the living room with her arms crossed like I'd committed a crime. Caleb was pacing behind her, red-faced and annoyed. "You emptied the garage?" she snapped. "I took what's mine," I said. "You didn't even tell me," she shouted. "Didn't think I needed permission," I said flatly. "You said I don't own everything, right?" Caleb jumped in, waving his hands like he was the victim. "Dude, you're psycho. I barely used anything." That was it. I snapped. "You wrecked $300 0 cents worth of gear and lied about it," I said. "You treated my shop like a playground." He shrugged like it was nothing. "It's just stuff," he said. I could feel my hands shaking. Emily stepped between us. "You're making this worse than it is," she said. I looked right at her. "I built that shop with my money, my time, my work. Not yours, not his, and I didn't say a word when Caleb moved in, ate our food, used up our water, left messes all over the house. But when he stepped into my space and wrecked what I built, that was the line. And you crossed it with him." Then she said it again, soft but firm. "You're not irreplaceable." That's when I knew. It was over. I packed a duffel bag, grabbed my laptop, and walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't say goodbye. I just left. I drove straight to Michael's print shop, and when he opened the back door and saw me standing there with that bag, he didn't ask questions. Just handed me a beer and said, "Cot's in the back. Stay as long as you need." I crashed there that night, exhausted, numb. 2 days later, while I was sanding a table in Michael's back room, Emily showed up. She stood there in the doorway and asked, You really want to throw everything away? I didn't stop working. You already did, I said. Her face twisted, like she wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. You're so dramatic over a couple tools, she muttered. That hit me wrong. I turned and said, those tools are how I make a living. You let your brother wreck my business and called it harmless. You took his side, and you looked me in the eye and said, I'm not irreplaceable. What else is there to throw away? She looked down, silent. I pushed one last time. If someone destroyed your stuff, and I defended them instead of you, how would you feel? No answer. You let him disrespect what I built. You made excuses. And you said something that broke me. I waited for an apology that never came. Her voice cracked a little. I didn't mean it. I shook my head. You did. And you meant it more every time you said it again. She didn't cry, didn't fight. She just left. Later that day, Caleb called me. His voice was annoyed, whiny. You took everything. She's freaking out. Happy now? I hung up. No reply. Then, the drama started. Emily posted vague rants on Facebook, stuff about betrayal and someone walking away. Friends started texting me. Neighbors whispered that I'd overreacted. I ignored all of it. I stayed focused on rebuilding. Michael let me turn his print shop's back room into a temporary workshop. I started taking jobs again, and soon, old clients were coming back. One guy said, You handled it right, man. That felt good. Like I wasn't crazy. Then, out of nowhere, I got a message from David, a client I'd worked with on a kitchen remodel a year back. He said he saw Emily's post, figured something was up. He also managed a downtown property that used to be a boutique shop. Said the rent was cheap, the space was perfect, and he'd hold it for me if I wanted to move my shop out of the garage for good. I drove out the next day. It had tall windows, skylights, exposed beams, everything I needed. I signed the lease that week. Meanwhile, back at Emily's place, things weren't so smooth. Caleb still had no job, no skills, and definitely no tools to finish the table he started. The garage was empty, cold, useless. Neighbors told me he'd been yelling in the driveway, slamming doors. One messaged me directly, Everything okay? Emily's brother looks like he's losing it. I just said, I moved out. That should have been the end of it, but Emily had one more move left. She filed for separation and came after everything. The tools, my business, even the lease on the new shop. Thought because we were married it was all up for grabs. But I had been smart. Every purchase, every receipt, every bank transfer, I kept it clean, kept it separate. My lawyer didn't even blink. She doesn't have a case, he said. If anything, she owes you damages. So I fought back. I filed a countersuit against Caleb for destruction of property. I had photos, receipts, texts, even a few neighbors who saw him hauling stuff around. That shut things down quick. Emily stopped posting. Caleb texted one last time, This is war, dude, you messed with the wrong family. I saved the message, not because I was scared, but because it proved how little they understood. This wasn't war, this was respect, and I wasn't giving it up again. A week after I moved everything into the new shop, I was in the middle of laying out oak panels, headphones on, deep in the rhythm of work, when Michael poked his head in and said, Hey, someone's here for you. I pulled off my headphones, wiping sweat off my forehead, and there she was. Woman in her late 30s, neat business clothes, a folder in her hands, and this look nervous but like she had something heavy to drop. You don't know me, she said, but I know Caleb. My heart dropped a little. I was bracing for drama, maybe another accusation, maybe someone trying to defend him again, but instead, she stepped forward and handed me the folder. My name's Sarah, she said. I saw your story on the post, the shop sign. I knew it had to be him. I'd been through this. So have others. I opened the folder and just stood there. Inside were screenshots, emails, and 3 court documents. Actual restraining orders filed against Caleb. One from Portland, another from Vancouver, and one from her. Each one told the same story in different ways. Threats, property damage, verbal abuse, escalating behavior, kicked out of multiple homes. Always the victim in his own and Sarah, she was still under an active order. She said she found me through an old photo Emily had posted, linked to a Facebook group where women share warnings about dangerous men. Caleb's name had come up 3 times in 1 month. I just thought you should know, she said, because if he's still out there hurting people, and people keep defending him, It doesn't stop." I couldn't even find words at first, just nodded and said, "Thank you." She left, and I stood there with that folder in my hands, realizing that this wasn't just about my tools anymore. This was bigger, a pattern, a trail of damage, and Emily had welcomed it into our home like it was no big deal. I gave the documents to my lawyer the next day. He took one look and said, This changes everything. Judges don't like repeated patterns of behavior eve ore, especially when there are victims with proof." And just like that, the case shifted. Days later, Emily called. I didn't answer, but her voicemail played like a weak apology. Her voice cracked and wobbled. "Jake, we need to talk. Things got out of hand. I didn't know Caleb's past. I thought I was helping. I didn't mean to hurt us. I didn't mean to hurt you. But words don't erase damage. They don't fix silence. They don't make you irreplaceable again." So I didn't call back. Instead, something better happened. Richard, a contractor buddy of mine, called out of the blue. "You ever thought about teaching?" he asked. "I got guys on job sites who are YouTube trained and clueless. If you ran workshops, real stuff, tool safety, building basics, I'd send them your way." I'd never taught before, but something clicked. Maybe it was time to turn this mess into something that mattered. I cleared a corner of my new shop, built extra benches, sketched out a beginner course, basic joinery, safety, tool care. I posted it on Facebook, just to test the waters. 12 signups in a week. Hobbyists, young guys chasing a new skill, a retired teacher who always wanted to build her own furniture. And my shop started to feel alive again. Not just a business, but a space that mattered. But then came court day. Caleb had filed a countersuit, claiming I'd threatened him with a hammer, created a hostile environment, bullied him. My lawyer, James, chuckled and said, "He's desperate, let the truth speak." That morning, I showed up in clean jeans and a button-down shirt. Calm, not dressed to impress, just there to be real. Caleb strolled in late, hair greasy, suit wrinkled, chewing gum like he was in a frat meeting. Emily followed him in, sat behind him, eyes locked on the floor the whole time. When I got on the stand, I told everything. I told the judge how I built my shop with no outside help, no family money, just long nights and scraped hands, how I warned Caleb multiple times, how he ignored me. I described the mess he left, the money I lost, and the things Emily said, especially the not irreplaceable line that changed everything. James laid out the receipts, showed photos of the destroyed tools, screenshots of texts. And then he pulled out the voicemail, the one where Emily said it herself. "I didn't mean to hurt you." That line, raw and real, echoed in the courtroom like a pin drop. Then came Sarah's folder. The restraining orders, the patterns, the warnings. James laid it out gently, showing that this wasn't just one incident. It was a guy who left chaos everywhere he went. The judge looked through it all quietly, nodding. Then Caleb took the stand, and I swear watching him lie was almost laughable. He claimed I threatened him every night with power tools. Said I'd destroyed his dreams, that he was on track to be a designer. James asked him what kind of designer. Caleb hesitated. Furniture, like custom stuff? I was building a table. James pulled out a cease and desist letter. Turns out Caleb had posted knockoff designs online, traced from someone else's work. When James slid it across the table, Caleb froze. Judge asked straight up, "Did you live rent-free in his house?" "Yes." "Did you pay for the tools?" "No." "Were you warned not to use them?" "Yes," and that was it. Emily got called up. Her voice was small, tired. She said she didn't know Caleb's past, that she just wanted to give him a chance. But when the judge asked about the voicemail and the not irreplaceable comment, she claimed I misheard. James hit play on the audio, clear as day. Her voice, saying the words. The room went silent. You could feel the weight of it. That was the moment. That was when the truth swallowed all the noise. A week later, the verdict came in, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I could actually breathe. I won. On every count. The judge ruled in my favor, across the board. Emily got nothing. No claim to the tools, no share of the business, no right to the new shop. She walked away empty-handed. Caleb? He wasn't so lucky. The court found him directly responsible for the damage, the lost inventory, and the equipment he'd trashed. He owed me $28,000, 0 cents in total, which he didn't have, not even close. So the court froze his bank accounts, started garnishing his wages, and slapped a lien on any future tax returns he might one day get. And because he lied under oath, those little fabrications about hammer threats and emotional abuse triggered something bigger. His violation of probation in Portland, the judge over there didn't take it lightly. Caleb was sentenced to 6 months in county jail, with a clear warning, one more screw-up and it wouldn't be 6 months, it'd be years behind real bars. A few days after the hearing, Emily sent me one last message. Just a short line. This wouldn't have happened if you didn't take the tools. That was it. No apology, no regret, just blame. I stared at the screen for a second and deleted the message without responding. Because by then I knew this had to happen. I needed to lose everything safe, to finally see everything clearly. And in the end, I didn't lose anything. I got it all back, and more. My woodworking classes took off, people started talking, sharing the post, tagging friends. The local newspaper came by and ran a feature. From dust to respect. The craftsman who rebuilt it all. I cut that headline out and taped it to the shop fridge. Every time I walked by it, I smiled. Word of mouth exploded. My workshops had waiting lists 2 months long. I hired 2 assistants and converted a spare room into an apprentice space for beginners. I started mentoring young guys who reminded me of myself. Quiet, broke, looking for something steady they could be proud of. And right by the front entrance, hanging on the wall, framed like a piece of art, is that same sign I screwed into my old garage wall. Not yours. It's a conversation starter. Everyone who walks in asks what it means. And I always tell them the same thing. Respect what you build. Respect what you earn. It's yours. Protect it. Emily ended up moving to Tacoma to stay with a cousin. We haven't spoken since that message. I heard Caleb's out of jail now, flipping burgers at a fast food joint an hour away. He started to GoFundMe to help with his fines, but last I checked it had raised a total of $37. The top comment read, "Don't steal from a guy who cuts clean." I didn't write it, but I'll be honest, I grinned when I read it. Because sometimes, revenge isn't about yelling or fighting or throwing punches. Sometimes it's not some big dramatic moment. It's just silence. It's an empty garage. It's walking into your shop in the morning, the lights humming, the smell of fresh sawdust in the air, tools hanging exactly where you left them. It's seeing your name on the lease, your students building their first projects with hands that finally feel steady. That's what winning looks like. That's what peace feels like. Not loud, not flashy, just clean, steady, and yours. If this story hit you in any way, if you've ever felt ignored, dismissed, or like your voice didn't matter, don't stay silent. Share your thoughts in the comments below. We read them, we care. And if you want more stories like this, real stories that remind us what strength and self-respect look like, hit that subscribe button and watch the next video on the channel. You're not alone in this. Sometimes standing up for yourself isn't about shouting. It's about knowing your worth and walking away from people who don't. Jake lost his home, but found his peace. He turned disrespect into purpose, silence into strength. You're not replaceable. Your work, your values, your boundaries, you matter. Protect them. Respect yourself first and don't let anyone treat your life like it's not yours.